So today we're going to talk about how to master Google Ads for garage door companies. And trying to move it up here. What we're going to try to cover today is why paid marketing is really key to unlocking unlimited scalability in terms of lead flow for your garage door business. And we'll talk about some of the strategies that you should do, some examples of campaigns that are working really well, how to set up and structure things, and just some KPIs, tracking landing pages, the whole thing. Really, everything you should keep in mind. And so, why should you listen to me? Wrote the book, Online Marketing for Garage Door Companies. I run garage door marketing, and we've worked with dozens and dozens of garage door companies doing exactly this stuff. And not only that, but I've been running an agency since 2011. So we've been around a long time. We've been doing this a long time, and we've kind of seen it all. Um, and so, like I said, we work with lots of garage door companies, got lots of good results. And all of this is early a part of our accelerated growth model. So, you know, there's really, as you drive leads with marketing for your business, there's really three things you have to do. One, you have to drive the leads. Two, you have to maximize the conversions that you get from those leads. And then three, look at what worked and what didn't and optimize the results and then feed that back into your system to drive more leads. And that's the process you want to do. And so today we're focusing in on driving leads and specifically paid. Okay. And this is all part of our digital dominance method updated for 2025. And I'll make sure the circle's actually in the screen. I don't know how weird that looks. Uh, but now we're going to start talking more about AI. And I don't think it's a big factor today. I know that there's some tools out there, um, not a lot that I would necessarily trust or use that much yet. But certainly over 2025, we are going to start seeing tools that are extremely powerful. And as those become useful, I'm going to talk about them. So nothing yet that I think is worth looking at, but it's coming. It's coming fast. And so we'll talk a lot about AI this year. So why should paid search be a part of your marketing strategy? And there's a bunch of reasons, but really you start showing up quickly. I mean, as soon as and this is after getting verified, which most of you know can be a nightmare for garage door companies. But let's set all that aside. Assuming you're verified, you can actually run ads. You can start showing up quickly, and you can be precise about where you want to show up, what terms you want to show up for, what things you want to chase. Now, Google always makes this more difficult, but at the end of the day, it's still possible to have pretty good control over that. Um, and within reason, there's unlimited scalability. So obviously, there's only so much impression share, but generally, people can spend a lot of money before they can't spend more. And when you're at that point, um, there's other things you can do to give yourself more reach, like have new locations, for example. So there really is no floor or ceiling, I should say, for what you can do here. Okay, so let's just get into it. And I'm skipping through some of these slides here because that I don't want to talk into them. There's a whole lot of stuff that you can talk about in paid. We're going to really focus primarily on Google. But there's even things like Nextdoor, there's things like Yelp. It's obviously Facebook, which has its use cases. So, we're gonna focus on Google, but paid is part of a much bigger picture. And these additional channels are increasingly important over time. So don't ignore them, but we're not gonna talk a lot about them today. Um, and so let's just keep going. So one thing that's very important for garage door companies is the local service ads, and this is what advanced verification will get you. And there's many names for this. The Google guarantee. This is really a pay per lead model, and it's nice when you can get in there because it doesn't really require the same amount of work. Once you're kind of through the gauntlet of getting in there, there's not as many things to control. So the hard part is getting in there, and then it's getting visibility, and you really do that through getting lots of reviews and interacting with the leads that come in and dispositioning them and all these things and being attentive. So every garage door company should be doing this. You got to get that advanced verification. It can be tough. We try to help our customers with it as much as we can. It is a major pain, but you definitely want to be in local service ads. Okay. And you're probably already familiar with these. And again, it's a pay per lead model. This should be a high priority for you to do. Okay. And so, again, it's much easier to run. Uh, Doing well in local service ads is really a matter of providing a good service and being responsive in the back end for these things. Okay. So, do them, start the process, go through the gauntlet, get into local service ads. Okay. And you can, these slides are in here so you can take notes, you can pause it, write things down. I'm not going to say a lot on these. I'll just kind of hover on them for a second in case you want to, pause the replay. But I'm just going to keep barreling through. So the main thing, and really, what gives you the most control is not these Google guaranteed, but the good old Google ads, the search ads, which everyone is very familiar with. And um, there's lots of reasons they fail, and it somewhat changes over time. I mean, in more recent history, what I've seen a lot is even just having enough not enough budget is will cause the campaign to fail. And it kind of stinks because it used to be that you could run very low budgets in Google Ads and get good results, but as it's become far more algorithm driven and machine learning driven, you really have to give it enough budget to work. And so when you have very high cost per leads, a lot of the time it's because there's just not enough budget in your campaigns to allow the campaigns to run effectively using the algorithms and the machine learning. Now, Google is not a friend of small advertisers. They're happy to take your money, but they are not set up for you to easily do well. It can be very challenging. Aside from that, you have to understand how to properly structure campaigns, how to set up ad groups, how to use landing page and keywords, and at the end of the day, remembering that um, you are creating these things for customers and you need to speak to them. And so you need calls to action, you need offers, you need incentives for them to trust you and then take the action you want them to take. Okay, so there's a lot that goes into all those things, but that's the basic idea. And generally speaking, and there are some who will advocate for this, but I just haven't seen it work particularly well. Don't take all of these things and just send them to your homepage. Again, I've seen people who advocate for this method, and we will try it if nothing else works. But that hasn't happened in a while. Um, but generally speaking, you want to conceptually group your keywords and send them to relevant pages. You don't just want to dump everything to yourwebpage.com. Don't do that unless you really know what you're doing. Okay. So, can it really drive ROI? Yes, it can. I don't think we have the slide in here, but I think on average, somewhere around in our customer base, about 33% of the leads come from Google search specifically. So, it is a huge driver for business. Obviously, we'd like to see more leads come from maps, and generally they do, uh, and from organic channels. But even if all those things are giving you as many leads as they can get, there are still people who are ad clickers who are going to come in through the ads, regardless of how well you're doing on the maps. And so it's not really a channel that you can avoid. And generally, it can be done in a high ROI fashion if you run it long enough. And so, these are some older campaigns that really did well over time. These were the number of leads that came in over the measuring period is a little bit of an older one, with an average cost per lead of 26, which was phenomenal. Very, very low. Would never promise that to a new customer, but you can get there if you target things in well and the competition isn't too horrible. And you do some dilutionary tactics with your spend to hold down the costs. It's doable. And so, if you drive that many leads and you sell 40, you book 40% of them, and your average ticket is about $750, then on a $3,000 spend, you're going to bring in about $34,000 of revenue, which is going to be over a 10x, 11x ROI. So, you know, and I'd say that can be fairly typical. The biggest lever here, though, is your conversion rate. And so, we can do everything right and send you the leads, but if you don't answer your phone and you don't sell the jobs and follow up, you know, you won't achieve strong ROI. So at the point where the lead becomes yours, you have to make sure you're excelling there too. Okay, here's another one where the average cost per lead was about $65. And this was a mix of maps and uh, pay-per-click in a very competitive market. So even with the maps in here, the leads were very expensive. So you know, be cautious of anyone promising you specific cost per leads, because we've had the same campaigns in two different markets that are like the same market. I mean, if you think about like demographics and city size, and like they're like twin cities, not Minneapolis, but like twin cities, right? And this campaign is just killing it. We're like, well, let's just take this campaign and change the geo terms and put it here. We've done that, and that same budget, same everything. Like you would expect, this one's producing $50 cost per lead. We should see $50 cost per lead after the warm up, and it crashed and burns. So Google's algorithms and systems make no sense sometimes. And so results in advance cannot be promised. You just have to kind of have been fighting with these things long enough to know the different levers to pull and things to try, to just continually force that number down. And so that's what working with a partner who knows what they're doing will bring for you. Um, and so in this case, again, this is a higher spend, um, with the kind of similar booking rate, but at a higher cost per lead, it's a lower ROI. So this is closer to a 5x ROI. Still good, depending on your margins, um, but not quite, 10x. But between 5 and 10x over time, I think is a reasonable expectation of return on ad spend. And that's what you want to target with paid. All right. So let's talk about how to set up and structure things here. And, there's really a number of factors here. The main thing is you have to make sure that your conversion tracking is set up, or you're not going to know what any of your KPIs are. Excuse me. So you have to make sure you're doing that. You need to know what your cost per clicks are. You need to know what your cost per lead is. Ideally, you're also tracking these things in Service Titan or something like that, so that you can understand, okay, this is my actual cost per sale, and you have good data to feed these things back into. As mentioned earlier, you need to make sure that you're using thematic ad groups. And there's all kinds of different tactics here. Some people will argue for single keyword ad groups or SKAGs. I don't think we're doing that anymore. The Google has really moved away from exact match. You can get somewhere near to it sometimes, but they're still going to sneak their related terms in there. So I think we favor, closely knit but still thematic ad groups. Don't forget negative keywords. That's an important thing, where if you're doing this yourself, you need to look at what is actually sending you traffic, because sometimes things will sneak in there that are weird, like a competitor, right? And you don't want that. So, watch your search terms and add negatives that will stop certain keywords that you don't want to spend money on. And never forget, you're writing, you're doing this for customers. So don't just be lazy about the text in the ads. The text in the ads has to be compelling. Like, people are going to read this and take action or not just based on what they read there. It doesn't matter anything else. If your text ad is bad, it's not going to go anywhere for you. And keep in mind, this is not, you know, you're not in isolation here. Your ad is showing up with competitor ads. So you kind of want to know what they're doing. You don't want to click on their ads because you know you hate it when they do that to you. Don't do anything shady like that. But be aware of what your competitors are doing and understand that your ads are going to be shown with your competitors' ads, and the clickers are going to need a reason to click yours instead of theirs, right? And then you have to back that up on your landing page. Your landing page has to signal authority, has to signal competence, has to signal trustworthiness, and it has to match what they were expecting to see when they clicked, right? It has to give them a compelling offer and call to action, right? Leverage ad extensions, like connect your Google Business profile to it so you can show your address and things like that. Um, and testing. You should be testing landing pages. You should be testing um, ad text, definitely. Don't over test, don't under test. Other than that, you're doing it right. So again, if you're not tracking conversions, don't even waste your time. You'll have no idea what's working, what to try, what to fix. You'll just kind of be, you'll probably get leads and get sales, but your ROI will not be what it could be if you're doing it the right way. So there's different ways of doing this. You can track it right in Google Ads. You can do dynamic number swapping, which we like to do, so that we can differentiate, you know, different traffic sources like maps and things like that. Track your web forms. So there's many different ways to do this. The main thing is pick a way, make sure it works, and stick to it. You don't need to try something new every month. Just get the basics in place so that you can have reliable data and go from there. And so the most important KPIs to be aware of is obviously total spend. You want to look at your average cost per click, but that can be an illusory metric because what you really care is your cost per lead. Because a keyword that gives you a $3 cost per click, well, that seems, on the face of it, seems far more appealing than a keyword that costs you $30 per click. But if your conversion rate is zero on that $3 keyword, and it's like 50% on that $30 keyword, you're going to pay for that $30 keyword all day long because that's sending you leads, right? So the cost per lead and the keywords that convert are the things that you really need to pay attention to. And your cost per leads are going to vary. Again, we've seen them this low, but that's very rare and very hard. So we've seen them as high as 200. We like to see them settle in around 60 to 100 on the high side. It's very market dependent. It's very service dependent. But this is in many ways a competitor driven thing. So the more competitive the auction is, the more expensive it's going to be. So, if anyone's telling you, yeah, we're going to get you X, Y, or Z cost per lead, I take it with a grain of salt because unless they're already running ads in that specific market exactly where you're going to want to run, they don't really have the data to make any suggestions like that. And I'd be cautious of it. We won't do it. We get asked all the time. And I instruct my team, just be honest. We don't know. And we won't know until we run the ads. Or if you have existing campaigns, we can say, yeah, that looks a little high, or, we might suggest doing something differently. Or it looks great. Don't change it. Like we can't fix things. We can't do any better than what's getting done. So don't mess with it. Right. So here's some ideas of how you can structure these things. Again, thematically, installation versus repair, commercial doors versus general. Brand campaigns typically are very smart. Um, Broken springs, things like that. And I'm not saying these are the exact ones we use. These are just to get you thinking. The exact keywords you're going to test. You're going to want probably geomodifiers, right? Like your city, garage door, broken spring, broken garage door spring, whatever. You have to try all these things and then see what the data feeds you. It can be different regionally, and people use different words for these things sometimes. So you can never ever get away from the testing. And this is just a snapshot of the different ad groups it looks like in a campaign and the different keywords. And these look like these are exact match, and we got a phrase match there. or sorry, phrase match and exact match. I said that backwards, but you know what I mean if you know Google Ads. And then the ad. So yeah, this is just kind of the structure of these things. You've probably seen this before. You know, many if not most of the garage door folks we talk to are pretty savvy on this stuff. None of this is probably new to you. Um, Again, dynamic keyword replacement in the ads is a good idea. It tends to convert a little better. It's a little bit more advanced, but you know, again, especially in garages, it can get extremely competitive, and you kind of want to wring every last little bit of performance you can. So be aware of what your competitors are doing, and make sure what you're putting out there looks good, looks at least as good as what your competitors are doing. Well, my camera goes nuts. I don't know why it does that. All right. And so this is what it looks on mobile. You can look at data in there to, see how you're doing. And these are just ad examples. Landing pages, same thing. You want to test these, but really, you just want to show pictures of your team. You want to show your offer. You just want to look like a credible company. You don't want to look like a fly-by-night operation. You don't want like a bunch of stock photos. It's kind of off-putting to people. So, get pictures of your team. Even if it's just you and your truck, get a picture. Especially as AI and AI content becomes more prevalent, the more real you are, the better it's going to do for you. People are getting wise to all the AI stuff, and they're not going to want like if you're leaning on AI images, um, you know, people are going to be a little skeptical, and probably rightly so. Highlight reviews, highlight accreditations, but mainly just look like a legit company and make it easy for people to reach you. Have a click to call for mobile. Have a forum, have chat maybe. People like to interact in different ways. Give people different ways to connect with you. So questions to ask. You can ask, and there's different models. There's agencies that bill percentage of ad spend. We don't, but I get the model. Um, ask them about conversion tracking. Ask them about their strategy. Um, Ask about KPIs. I mean, you can read these things. I don't want to get into this in too much detail. You know, Generally, like I said, garage door folks are pretty savvy. You probably already know to ask these things. What do we do differently? I don't know. I don't know what anybody else does. But we just try to, we have the advantage of working with multiple garage door companies. So there's some knowledge transfer across campaigns of things that we see that work better. Um, I'd say that's really primarily the main advantage is that, you know, we do this a lot and that helps. So I'm not going to read all this. You can pause and read if you want to. And my camera is just being absolutely ridiculous, and I'm not a fan of it. Um, Last thing we'll touch on here is retargeting and automation. So, you should already be retargeting. If not, it's really easy to do. And if you're spending anything on traffic, if you're spending anything on marketing, you really should set up a retargeting. You can set it up. Really, Facebook is the main one. And then automation is just having some sort of way of automatically engaging with leads. You'd be amazed how many times I fill out a form and don't even know if the form went through or ever hear back from the companies. It's crazy. They're just leaving money on the table. So, when someone submits a form, you should make sure that you're notified and you should make sure that they're notified. Set up an automation to send them an email like, hey, we got your information. Here's what's going to happen next, right? That's all you got to do. Then they know you heard from them and now they're just waiting on you. And you want to be quick. You don't want to make them wait forever, but there's a lot of power in just getting that instant follow up, especially if they're shopping multiple people at the same time. You don't want to leave that to chance. So retargeting, make sure they see you all over the place while they're shopping. Automation, make sure you're in there, the first and the best. And it's just going to get you better results. It's been shown time and time again. We see it ourselves. We see it with our customers. It's really a no-brainer. And you can build some really complex and crazy things, but don't let that, deter you. Just start simple and build from there. That's all you got to do. Now, if you want to talk to us about this, we'd love to talk to you. We do a market report, which will then get on the call and talk with you. We'll tell you what we see. We'll tell you, what ads are running in your area, all kinds of stuff. We'll talk with you about it. We'll talk with you about what opportunities we see and, what you could do to get better results. So you can go to garagedoormarketers.com/apply-now. If you fill out that form, you will experience marketing automation. So you will get emails, and we do that for a reason, because it helps people give us better information for the market report, and it helps them show up to the calls, which we appreciate. Or just give us a call. We're happy to talk to you on the phone. And either way, hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was helpful. And if you think we can help you out, we'd love to hear from you. So until next month, that is all.